should bring topic number 5 is should we judge boys by how they dress or not? Are the examples used valid? This comes with a link to YouTube. It's a short. Look like it's Dick Gregory. I'll play it a couple of times. Make sure we get it.
Simple. That's cool, but why is this a priority? Hitler never wore his pants down. The mafia, you can't find people more immaculate than them. Huh? The priests that got busted for ripping off little boys for 100 years, they never wore their pants down. The problem is when you try, because your spirit is not there, to identify wrong by the way it looks, then you're in trouble. Instead of saying, wait, I don't qualify to analyze this, but let's see if we can find somebody. But y'all be playing games and talk about the young folks this and talk about young folks that. I was at a conference the other day and they talking about the young boys with their pants hanging down. But if that was women with your pants there, we would love it. And so my reaction is simple. That's cool, but why is this a priority? Hitler never wore his pants down. The mafia, you can't find people more immaculate than them. Huh? The priests that got busted for ripping off little boys for 100 years, they never wore their pants down. The problem is when you try, because your spirit is not there, to identify wrong by the way it looks, then you're in trouble. Instead of saying, wait, I don't qualify to analyze this, but let's see if we can find somebody. But y'all be playing games and talk about the young folks this and talk about young folks that. I was at a conference the other day and they talking about the young boys with their pants hanging down. But if that was women with your pants there, we would love it. And so my reaction is simple. That's cool, but why is this a priority? Hitler never wore his pants down. The mafia, you can't find people more immaculate than them. Huh? The priests that got busted for ripping off little boys for 100 years, they never wore their pants down. The problem is when you try, because your spirit is not there, to identify wrong by the way it looks, then you're in trouble. Instead of saying, wait, I don't qualify to analyze this, but let's see if we can find somebody. But y'all be playing games and talk about the young folks this and talk about young folks that. I was at a conference the other.
The issue that I have with a lot of people who are loudest in the Black community is a lot of times their analysis of things is in comparison to white folks. Instead of it just being something that we just don't like and we just won't tolerate within our society. For whatever reasons, we have a certain taste and a certain distaste for things. And, you know, we shouldn't have to compare that to the fuckery that other people have perpetrated, right? Like, we should just be talking about and amongst ourselves as people groups scattered across this globe. What is it that we kind of, you know, what is our innate feelings about certain things? You know, now you could argue that maybe if what is taught to us is true, that we were naked moving around through the continent, right? Then you can argue that, well, we are carrying out like a dominated or you know, the mindset of the oppressed, you know, because we already have been dominated in that way, right? I'll get it. But so, you know, so maybe we talk about clothing when we shouldn't really even care about clothing to begin with, is what I'm really trying to say. But regardless of what it is, where it stands right now, most of us, I believe, look at some of these behaviors, the way folks are dressing and carrying themselves, and the associated behaviors, and we just don't want it. We just don't want, regardless of what this white boy was, we just don't want the shit. Anyway, I've rambled. I don't know if Bakari was present. Did he catch that video?
Yes, I heard that. I heard that one.
All right, Bakari, what are your thoughts?
First of all, I don't know why he want to compare us to some Italians. He said who was more immaculate than them. Then compared it to the Jews. Not the Jews, the priests, and how they didn't wear their pants down. The pants down, they wear their pants down too far for me, but shit. I don't wear my pants up real tight either. You can't see my drawers, but all my clothes, my pants gonna be a little loose on me too. But you can't see my you can't see my underwear. But we shouldn't. If people don't want to dress like an Italian, they ain't got to dress like no damn Italian. Don't want to do what the priest did? No way. Like I put in the chat. No, they didn't wear their pants down, but they pulled down a whole lot of little boy pants though. Instead of getting in trouble for that. So I don't know. But I am not a fan of in all honesty, I am not a fan of wearing your pants down under your behind where people can see your drawers. I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of that style though. I'm not. I get them out.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. Oh man.
Drink you some water, Coco.
Thanks, Black Steel. That was Bakari. Let's hear from MG2 if he's there.
I always have to ask myself, when somebody does something, I have to ask them by asking myself why. Why? If I'm not a proponent of folks, looking that, because I don't run around with my pants hanging down. It does no benefit for me. But I like to ask them once in a while, and I do that. I say, why are you doing that? And when I'm saying why is not necessarily, I just want to be open and say, okay, well, you like to do that. Why? And usually the answer that comes out doesn't have anything to do with anything of value, for lack of a better term. I don't see it improvement in health. I don't know if that improves health. Clearly it doesn't. I don't see that as a way that you can manufacture something, by wearing our pants down, it's the same thing, dressing like an Italian. How does that really benefit an African? Does it improve your health just because you have a tie and a suit on? I mean, really, no. I like to ask the very simple term, 3-letter term that nobody could really answer with any kind of sense of value, and that's why. And the thing is when individuals are walking around like that, I ask them, what benefits have you gained with that? And I'm not just talking about benefits in terms of money and status and prestige. I'm talking about, has it elevated you to where you are 10 times more productive, more, innovative, more, healthy, the whole 9 years. Since you've done whatever you did, wearing a weave, wearing your pants hanging down, or trying to dress like a boy loving a priest, whatever. What was the outcome, and was the outcome not only beneficial to you but those around you? Has it elevated your community, your family, your neighborhood, your society? I tend to think not, and I may be wrong, but I have not seen it to this very day, whether someone's dressing like an Italian, or whether someone's got, unfortunately got their, pants wrapped around their knees. I haven't seen any kind of upside to any of that. And I haven't heard anyone ever tell me that there is a possibility of upside, for lack of a better term. So I understand where Dick Gregory's coming from. I just like to say whatever individuals do, and especially when it's something that I'm not akin to wanting to do, because I will never do that, I will ask that person that. I will ask them, why do you do that? And I want to listen. I just want to say, oh, okay, all right, I understand. How has it helped you? You know, how's it helped? What has it done for your family? You know, you guys, you know, did you win the lotto? What, you know, how does that help? And usually, no, not usually, 100% of the time that I've asked that question, I have not gotten an answer that produces anything of value whatsoever. Anyways, I'll go ahead and pass the mic.
Appreciate that, MG. Too. Black Steel, what say you?
So I understand his point. I myself am not a fan of his pants hanging down. You know, I remember, you know, my son, sometimes his pants would be a little bit low. I was like, pull your pants up, boy, what's wrong with you? But I would say this, that I understand his point is that the pants being down around your waist, wherever they are, that's not a primary focus. And I guess what he's trying to say is that the way we wear our clothes doesn't determine our level of oppression. So Black people were lynched wearing suits and ties. Black people are beaten by the police coming home from church. So whether or not you wear a suit or whether your pants are around your ankles, you're going to be treated the same in a system of white global domination. And I understand that the whole thing wearing the pants is a fashion trend has been around. I feel like it's been around a little bit too long. I remember when they were doing it when I was in high school, but it's good to me. I feel like it's gone a little bit too long, but whatever. Outside of my own individual fashion choices, though, I guess his point is that it's not a primary focus because no matter how we wear our clothes, whether our pants are around our waist, around our ankles, or whether they're being held up by suspenders, we're still Black in an anti-Black world. Therefore, the way we wear our clothes is not going to garner us any more respect because it's our skin color that is the offense, not the way we wear our clothes. So I guess I understand his point, and even as me not being a fan of this particular style of clothing, you know, many times it's gone back to trying to justify the way a Black person gets treated based on how they wear, or if they wore their clothes a certain way, they would get treated better. And that's not necessarily the case. We understand just by looking at our history, that's not the case. That you can be in a military uniform fighting for serve this racist ass country, and you could still be subjected to brutal violence. So I guess that's kind of what he's saying. And that part I do agree with, even though me myself am not a fan of this particular clothing style. So I'll go ahead, I'll leave it there, Cole. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Black Steel. Buana, what say you?
I would say that it's not been my experience, you know, and I can't speak for the other brothers, but when I wear some suits, I am treated differently in my society as opposed to when I am wearing um, tennis shoes, jeans, and the proverbial all the things with the young people as well. I am treated differently, and these people may not know me from a can of paint, you know, and unfortunately, people could wear whatever they want to wear. And I am not judging people. Well, I am judging a little bit because people could wear what they want to wear, but people will make up assumptions about the individual, regardless of the fact that, you know what I mean, you want to wear what you want to wear and you want people to see you as an individual and you want to see that you want them to see you as having high character. That's all well and good. But unfortunately, we live in a society where we live in a society of uniforms, whether through intent or whether through inference, we wear uniforms. So when a person perceives a man in a suit and tie, he is going to perceive that man different. He's going to infer things based on the uniform he is wearing, as opposed to a person who's wearing a hoodie and tennis shoes. That's just the way of the world, the Western world. I didn't create it. It's just like that. I guess some of these brothers try to change that mentality and idea. It'll take a long, even Dick Gregory sits here wearing a suit. As a person speaking from an authoritative position, he could be speaking madness. But because he is wearing that suit, that weighs very heavily on the listeners within that audience. He speaks about Hitler and he speaks about the Italian mob. Hitler, in his uniform, Nazi uniform, was trying to take over the world. In his other uniform, he was trying to still take over the world in his suit and tie as well. When you see pictures of him, the mafia, when we see pictures of John Gotti, people always mention the $1,000 suits he wears. Well, that helped him in garnering the respect of his community because he was playing a respectability politics in his community. Granted, the things that he was doing was gangster things, but people still always saw him with that $1,000 Italian suit, and they had a level of respect for the John Gotti, even though he was the worst of the worst. When people wear the uniforms of their pants beneath their ankles and things of that nature, that culture is, well, I've heard that culture was created in prison. So that uniform is going to give me, I'm going to infer in looking at that, oh, this person must have been to jail before. Or he's a class clown. Why is he exposing himself to the whole entire world? This is the inference that I'm going to take by that kind of posturing at man wearing that uniform. When women wear certain kinds of clothing, depending on if you are wearing the uniform of a person who's a streetwalker, you may not be a streetwalker, but you are wearing that uniform. Therefore, I am going to infer she may be a loose person with loose principles about herself. Why does she walk around in a public street and walk around that way? I didn't create this society. I found a society and how people infer these things before I got here. Now, if people want to be judged in a particular way, either you're gonna accept certain things within the society or choose to be an outlaw and live outside of that society. You're gonna be a contrarian, and you're gonna get what contrarians get in a society that says, hey, wearing your pants like this is gonna garner this kind of treatment. When we point to the fact that people back in the day was hung with their suits on, that is a legitimate argument. Even military uniforms, that's a legitimate argument. All I'm saying is that's not been my personal experience. I've lived in a predominantly black country, and I've lived in a predominantly white country. And in terms of how I'm spoken to and treated, it is different. It is different. That's been my experience. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that in certain instances, you have to, you have to engage where you are, practice situational awareness. And it is what it is, man. Like I say, I didn't create the world that I exist in. I found it here when I came here. And unfortunately, people judge you out sometimes by your outward appearances. That's just the way of the world. So, but I'll stop there.
What say you guys on the panel to Juana's assertion about the statutes of society? That's, it was here when I got here. This is just how it's been. What say y'all to that?
So
I'll go quickly. So yeah, I do understand his point, right? But my point was more of, if a racist is going to be racist towards you, he doesn't really care what you're wearing. So that's kind of my point. So I understand Bond's point about being perceived by your community, but I more so am speaking about what happens when you're dealing with someone who already dislikes black people, who already has a racist thought in their mind. It won't really matter what you wear. That's just my rebuttal to that.
Can I tell you guys a story that happened to me? Yeah, I'm gonna tell you anyways, because I love telling my stories. And I'm glad you said that, Black Steel, because it's very important. I had to learn this many ways. Most folks know that I toured with a lot of different artists and whatnot, and I've been around the world, and I've been in everything from presidents, castles, and cabinets, White House, you name it. And there's two things that happened that were really quite interesting. We were doing this one show, and it was Andre Agassi's benefit or whatever, where a lot of like major celebrities and a lot of dignitaries, a lot of big time money, some billionaires come to this thing. He does it once a year. And I'll never forget when I was walking in there, we had to make sure the artist I was working with, that we were dressed to the nines. I mean, we weren't in tuxes, but this is it was a #1 artist at the time. It was more in the rock and roll field. And I'll never forget. I mean, everybody was making sure that, there was not one hair follicle out of place. It didn't matter what it was. Because, hey, this is a big event for everyone. And the keynote speaker that was there, I'll never forget this. And I had met him before, but I never really had a chance to, to talk to him. And here all of a sudden, and this is before he became a hated man, but he comes in and I see this old brother, real old brother, start walking, and he's kind of sloughing around. And I could tell he had a vision problem, because I have a vision problem, and he's sloughing, kind of getting close to me. This happened, I think, in around 2010. I'll never forget this. And as he's shuffling and shuffling, he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, young man, you're walking good today." And I said, "Hey, old man, it looks like you're walking good." And this guy had like it looked like he was on the couch for 3 Sundays in a row, sweat underneath his arms. He had a sweat. He had a T-shirt that was all, like you could tell there were food stains on it. He had sweats on, and he was in flip-flops. And he's walking and walking. He gets up on the stage, and the money in that room was probably close to $2 billion in their net worth, at least, of all the folks that were in the room, because it was very big. I think it was in Vegas. And, like I said, it was Agassi's thing. They were doing raffles for people that, like, you could spend an hour with AC/DC's drummer, and you could spend an hour with Jay-Z's rapper, whatever. And, they were giving raffles, and it would cost like, okay, that one went for $1 million. Okay, now you can spend an hour with such and such. But this brother, he gets on stage, old guy, walks on stage, and I was like, whoa. All those folks in the room, you could tell that they had the best designers from, you name it. You could tell it was like MET Gala, like Fashion Week. That's how much money was in that room. And the brother gets up on the stage, and he gets in there, and they all started clapping and laughing, and they were getting there, and he grabs some mic, and he started, I won't say cussing them out, but he's like joking and clowning all of them in his dirty T-shirt that had food stains on it with sweat underneath, that he definitely didn't change in like 3 weeks, with sweats on and flip-flops. And they were captivated by every word he said. They gave him like, 5-minute standing ovation. That guy was Bill Cosby. I'll never forget this. And the thing is his uniform that day didn't matter. Okay. It was like, they didn't give a crap on none of that. Okay. They were like, look, this dude is powerful, at least at the time. Like I said, it was around 2010. It's like a lot of us have this frame of reference, and that's to kind of answer what Wanda's question is in terms of, hey, I just got here. This is the way this society is. The thing is we frame our frame of reference, especially as those who are not in power, on what dictates from those who we perceive that have that power. And clearly they do, because I don't make my own electricity in the house. I do have to turn a switch on. But the thing is that really hit me really hard when I saw Bill Cosby get on that stage after we were clowning each other in the hall. And that was his uniform. That was his show clothes. That was his attire. He came out dressed like that, and he didn't even give a crap in the world. And it reminded me of something that I've been doing for years at what they call the money show and some of these conferences. I had done it because I didn't care. And a lot of times we say, well, look, the person first perceives us and what we're dressing in the attire that fits their motive. Hey, I just came in this world. As Juana said, I came in this. So I might have to do whatever it is for my self-preservation. I go to these places that are basically, they used to hold them a lot. It's like money show, gold conference and stuff like that. Many of the times that I went to these conferences, the net worth in those rooms would be rivaling that of what I saw in that show at that Agassi thing. But when I go there, I'm up there talking to individuals, and sometimes a keynote speaker will have me talk. I'm not in there in the clothes that I'm wearing that I should, quote unquote, be wearing. I'm in there in a T-shirt, sweats, and tennis shoes that have like tour swag on it. Like, oh, I toured with Poison, or I toured with Prince, or whatever. I don't care. But when I'm at that mic, they're captivated about what I say. And when I get off the mic, like one time I was wearing an Elijah Muhammad T-shirt. Forgot I even had it on. One of the guys that was a broker, and he was like the front of for a brokerage, trying to sell his brokerage, comes up to me and tries to tell me everything about Elijah Muhammad. Why? Because he wants me to join that brokerage. So the thing is of course, first impressions are the impressions, but more importantly is, what do you think of yourself? What kind of badge are you going to put on yourself? If you are pants hanging down around your, then clearly that's what you think about yourself. I understand, overstand, and understand a lot of what we do is because of what's been imparted or inferred, as my brother says, into us from a society that we had nothing to do with, that we're a part of, unfortunately. The thing is, more important is for us to create our own and to at least admire our own, and not necessarily looking at, and I know Dick Gregory's in a ways is kind of alluding to that, and I definitely appreciate us saying, hey, they're going to kill you whether you're wearing a suit or not. The main thing is to start just looking at whose frame of reference are you trying to impress or depress. But just make sure you recognize that you are not a part of that society, and no matter what you do is not going to be a part of it unless they're going to use it as a tool, a weapon, or a lesson against you. I'll go ahead and pass the mic.
Any other last thoughts here? All right.
Hey, Coco.
Uh-huh.
Hey, can you pull up an image? I don't know if you can do that or not. But if you can't, don't worry about it. But if anybody don't look up a guy,
Image of
Jeff Fort. And the reason I was going to use the image of Jeff Fort is like what MG2 was just saying about how Bill Cosby was dressed. And when I'm relating, he was like, nobody was more immaculate than Italians. That's what Dick Gregory said. Jeff Fort didn't wear suit and ties and all that. But you can look and see what he did for his community. And you can look and see what he did for sure for his community and where he lived and what he was doing for Black people in Chicago. He's in prison now. I think he was railroaded, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm just making the point was his dress. But after they imprison him, they send some white, you know how they take all your food, take the farm, run whatever, then give you a bologna sandwich and say, we're going to save you with a Bible, right? So they send the missionary over there. Man, Jeff Fort, Black people, when he was in Chicago, when he was out, when he was in power, Black people owned everything, even the apartment buildings. And they was just talking about how people on the streets all of a sudden had somewhere to live and had a job. And I just use that to say, we don't have to look like no Italian to care about our people. Now, I am not a fan of wearing your pants under your buttocks, but still, we don't have to try to look like other people to do stuff in our community. That was my point of saying, look up Jeff Fort. I hear the mic.
Appreciate that, Bakari.
I want to answer some of this. I want to answer MG2. MG2 said that Bill Cosby in the year 2000 something odd came up on a microphone and he was speaking in some clothes, dirty kinds of clothes. It looked like almost like a hippie or whatever. But prior to that, Bill Cosby has had created almost decades of content where he didn't look like that, where his image to the business that he was a part of for many, many years, he did not look like that. So he developed enough currency, in terms of what he would have done prior to coming to that microphone and looking like that, where people would look at him to some level of respect. They say, well, this man, he's created this content, he's done this work, he's created and galvanized millions and millions of dollars. Therefore, he could dress like however the hell he want to. A regular person off of the street would not have the ability to come in that room, dress as Bill Cosby would have dressed, and be able to garner the listening ear of everyone in that room, because he would not have the same kind of currency as Bill Cosby would have. And when you mention yourself, You worked in the stocks and trading industry for many years, I assume. You develop a degree of currency. I'm sure within that time you would have worked and created made many people wealthy. Yeah, I mean? So people listening to you, they don't really wouldn't necessarily look at your clothing anymore. They say, well, ask MG2. You know, we love MG2. He's made so much money for our company. We don't necessarily, he could wear whatever the hell he wants to now. But initially, I'm sure when you went into these kinds of businesses, you wasn't dressing with your pants. I mean, I don't know what the proverbial clothing was for that day, but you wasn't dressing with your pants hanging down beneath your ankles, trying to, I don't think that it works that way. I really don't. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I don't think so. So I think that yes, you want people to look at you and want them to look at your insides. You want them to look and respect you for your brain. But we live in a superficial society and culture. And that is, people are not going to ignore what they see from the outside first and foremost. They're not going to ignore your uniform. I think your uniform matters. And if the brothers who are trying to play contrarian and wearing their pants down to their ankles and just looking crazy, they're not going to be embraced in certain sectors within our community or the so-called dominant society in the greater world. That's just what it is. They're going to be perceived as clowns. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's where I am with it.
Let me real quick answer you on that, because what you said was very important, very, very crystallized, and I love it. And I'm saying crystallized in my mind. Actually, it does matter, and it also doesn't matter what you wear. And the reason I say that is because I've always walked into those stock conferences like that and always wondered why they didn't kick me out. And I'm like walking in and I'm like, but then in the back of my mind, I didn't care. I mean, it's just amazing how that worked. I'm like, wow, I'm the only one in here with T-shirts and sweats, but yet everyone listens. And you're right, it's about that currency. Not the currency I built up, but the currency that I have, that I possess. And even then, I didn't have the currency that I built up. It was just as somebody says, this guy, as you said, this guy can make us a lot of money. So therefore, they will listen. But then in a ways, it doesn't matter what you wear, because Emmett Till was killed regardless of what he wore. It doesn't matter how many of the, like the brothers that were lynched in their uniforms, whether it was World War I, World War II, or even Vietnam, and they were wearing the U.S. uniform, but they were still lynched. So it didn't matter what they wore. It reminds me of another gig that I did. It was a Star Trek's 40th anniversary. I'll never forget that, over there at Paramount. And the artist that I was with, he's a jazz artist, quote unquote jazz artist. Y'all know who he is. And I'll never forget that, because I'm sitting there out back by the trailers. And this is how crazy things get. Everybody's dressed kind of, with a tux and a T-shirt. Some of them didn't have their tuxes on. Some just had their shirts. And the artist that I was with, number one artist, I mean, one of the most, most well-known, quote unquote, jazz, and I say quote unquote, jazz artists of modern times. And we're sitting out there and he's standing and he looks over and just minding our own business. He didn't have his instrument with him and whatnot, but we're just kind of standing there. If you guys saw him on the street, you would know exactly who he is. And all of a sudden, this young sister came up and she goes up to him. We're all standing there. And she says, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me where the other entrance is at? And by the way, can you get us some cocktails? And we were wondering if you could go ahead and bring us some of the plate of the hors d'oeuvres." And this young sister was definitely a celebrity, or at least a hanger-on. And he looked at all of us. He was dressed in his performing clothes. And he looked at all of us kind of like, don't let everybody know about this incident. Remember, this dude was at the top of his game in terms of jazz. I mean, everybody knows him. They even did a parody of him on The Simpsons. But the fact that he was dressed in that uniform, that he was accepted in there, he was still looked at as a butler and a chauffeur by somebody who was just outside. I'll never forget that gig. So it just kind of gives you the duality in terms of sometimes it does matter and sometimes it doesn't matter. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I respect that. But for me, I am not, and you, like you say, who are you doing it for? For me, I am doing it for myself. I am putting on clothes and I'm wearing it. I'm putting on a belt because I think that you should wear a belt with pants, and you should wear your pants in a certain way. You should wear your clothing in a certain way. I'm doing it for me, not for no white man. What a white man think or whether he's gonna perceive me. I'm doing it for me personally. If a man wants to dress with his pants hanging down beneath his waist, looking certain, that's fine. But for me, I would not necessarily listen to what he has to say. I'm thinking to myself, for me personally, I'm thinking to myself, oh, what's this guy have to say to me? You know, what's he gonna say? And I could lose out on a whole lot of information based on how I may perceive someone. But I'm thinking I wouldn't take MG2. I'm just not gonna take a person who's looking like that seriously. I'm sorry, you know, and that's just my stance. Now other brothers feel a different way about it, but for me personally, I'm not gonna listen to what he has to say. Brother Bakari says that how could a person dress in a particular way fix the community, or how could a dressing in a suit be fix the black community? Well, that person may not necessarily fix the community, but I tell you what, he may be able to garner the attention of people who may have the ability to. I'm not listening to a man who having his pants beneath his waist and shit like. And I'm a speak to a man who's well dressed and who pays attention in the way he presents himself to the world. If he pays attention, because I pay attention to the way I dress and how I present myself to the world. So I'm gonna be more inclined to listen to that person as opposed to a person who dresses as if he don't give a shit. If you don't give a shit, you stay over there. You should have nothing to say to an individual like me because I care about myself and the way I present myself to the world. But I would stop there. I'll stop there.
That was one more thing. I'm really loving this. I understand where you're at 100%. I mean, I cannot disagree whatsoever. One thing that I had to learn over the years is because I'm one of those guys that dresses how he cares. Not, I don't wear my pants down, and I like to go ahead and make sure that I'm slightly groomed if at the very least. But the thing that I've learned over the last several decades is I don't discount anything. There was a guy he's the one who did he did a lot of Motown songs. He did the soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever. He's the one in charge. He was one of the guys that actually helped produce stuff that I was working on when I was a kid. And he taught me something, and this is why I won't distance whatever I'm approached with. I'm not going to, even though that uniform might be a uniform I don't necessarily should take seriously, because it might be someone you guys might call homeless. It might be somebody that I'm like, well, this dude, if his uniform is saying that he doesn't care about himself, why should I? I understand that. But this dude, I'll never forget him. He was a major producer back in the day, and he did a lot of records, Solar, you name it, all the old hits. And then he told me, he says, look, kid, never leave a stone unturned. Even if it's a stone you don't like, you could always go ahead and cover it, whatever you saw back up. But just make sure, leave no stone unturned, because you never know what's out there that might benefit you. Even if it's a person that doesn't wear the uniform that you want them to, that you might not think they're taking themselves seriously. And that's something that I had to learn over years, decades and decades, which is kind of like, why I've been on the adventures I've been on, around the world, with presidents, with kings or whatever, is because I had to tell myself, I'm not going to leave that stone unturned regardless. I know that individual might be dressed into something I don't even want to get close to, because this is not me. But they may have something that's very useful for me, who does pride in the way I look or the way that I present or whatever. But they'll have either a lesson or a tool or a weapon that I can use. And looking at that Bill Cosby situation or that jazz artist that I was around, or even the times when I'll go into these conferences where everybody else is dressed in suits that are at least $3,000. And I'm in a t-shirt and sweats and tennis shoes. And therefore, because I admire and respect myself and what I got between my ears that other folks want, need, can't, do it out and ready to kill for, I learned a very long time that what matters is what I present. What, as you were saying, what you do, you think of yourself. What do you present in yourself? I walk out of this door not like I'm king, but I'm God. Everywhere I go, I'm the one who's controlling everything, irrespective of the scenario. And I think that the uniforms we wear definitely enhance that, but I'm not going to put 100% on that being the cause célèbre, for lack of a better term, of one's existence or even importance. Because remember, even Ted Bundy, he wore suits, and so did John Wayne Gacy. I'll go ahead and pass the mic.
Hey, let me say something right quick. So me when I said about is the wearing a suit gonna help fix the neighborhood, that was in basically kind of like in response to Dick Gregory talking about Italians and all that. Like I said, that's why I pulled up Jeff Fort. If wearing a suit is your personal thing, that's your personal thing. Like me, like I said in the chat, I don't even own a suit. I never liked neckties my whole life. I didn't want nothing around my neck tied like that. I'm just being honest. I don't. But that's me, and I'm not against a brother wearing a suit. It's also like you say, wearing a suit can get attention for certain people, right? And that's possible, and that's so. I can agree with that. But jeans and sneakers, because I really can't wear. I don't really wear shoes, because I really can't. I got bad feet. They hurt, right? So, but I can garner the attention of certain people too. So I'm not knocking a brother for wearing a suit. Like this suit and the suit and tie brother can work hand in hand with the jeans and sneaker brother. It's not a competition. It's not me saying, oh, something wrong with you for wearing a suit. You're trying to conform to somebody else's ways. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't want nobody to take it that way. So I just wanted to make sure people understood what I was saying.
I think, thank you, Brother Bakari, for that. I think a follow-up prompt for those out there who tend to post prompts on the Shoot the Breeze channel on the Discord. I saw it mentioned earlier in the chat. I think Afro Native World said it. But I think it'll be a nice investigation to see how would our people take us if we're not wearing the European suit, but a suit that has more cultural relevance to who we are. Would people have taken Malcolm X seriously if he at all times was wearing something more African, so to speak, in nature? That's an interesting discussion that we can have. So if someone can post that on the Discord, that'd be great. If I don't remember to. That's the show for tonight. I want to thank everyone who joined. MG2 dropped off too quick. I want him to shout out something, but we got Brother Bakari here still. Bakari, give a shout out for this week.
Man, find a black business to support. Black Business Challenge. Black Business Challenge. Find a black business to support. That's what I want to shout out.
Thank you very much for that. Black Steel, what do you want to shout out this week?
I want to shout out my lady friend. She said she's going to be listening tonight. So thank you for listening, baby. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. I like that. Buana, you want to shout anything out this week?
Yeah, shout out to Black Steel's lady. I hope she is listening as well. I got a whole lot of information in terms of what Black Steel.
Chance, baby. Only nothing.
Oh, by the way, Brother Bakari, you know you my man, 100 grand, brother. Nothing you could say to me. You know I thin skin, brother. So I take it crazy at all. You know that you my man, 100 grand, and I understand what you're saying when you say that other brothers who wear other kinds of uniforms, my brothers who work like you say paving roads and stuff like that, they may not necessarily be inclined to listen to someone in the suit and tie. So I get what you're saying, bro. You know, no sweat. You know, but it was a good show tonight. Everybody showed up. I'm glad that we had a good conversation, a good back and forth with all my brothers with different kinds of views. And whoever is to listen to this, I hope they get a whole lot of information from it, because we drop a whole lot of a lot of knowledge tonight. So, but big up to you, Koku, for creating this platform for the brothers them to sit down and have a conversation. For the sisters who sometimes just sit down in the shadows and listen, you know, I would implore you to come on sometimes and give y'all opinions, because y'all opinions is just as valid as our opinions. So, and like Brother Bakari say, the black woman is God. So we want to hear y'all sometimes and have a discourse with y'all sometimes. So don't just sit in the shadows. Come give y'all opinions about what y'all hearing in terms of what we discuss on these prompts. But I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I want to thank all of you who were here tonight. Thank you, MG2, who in the chat said it was a classic. Thank you for coming through. Thanks to Afro Native World, Trigger Happy 262, Bakari, Buana, Black Steel. Thanks to Real Black Gentleman, Anthony McPhail, Sister Raw was out there, Yana B was out there. Thanks to all of you who were here tonight. We'll be back next week, I'm certain. You guys take it easy during the week. Check out all the other shows on KWAZ Radio. And until next week, man, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.